She thought your silence meant weakness. She never imagined it was the calm before your exit. While she played games with your heart, you were preparing your withdrawal. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Now, she sits alone, in the same cold emptiness. She once served you with a fake smile, and that silence, it haunts her louder than any argument ever could. This video isn't for everyone. It's for the man who gave his all, and was treated like an option. It's for the man who's done begging to be seen. If that's you, comment "Never again" below. Support this channel not just for me, but for every man battling in silence. When you share this, you give voice to someone who's forgotten his worth. You help him remember who he is. Number 1. She took you for granted. She didn't cherish you. She calculated you. While you were loyal, grounded, and consistent, she was running equations in her head, measuring your presence against her options, not loving you for who you are, but loving the power your loyalty gave her. Every message you sent first, every night you waited on a reply, every time you silenced your gut feeling just to keep the peace, all of it fed her illusion. The illusion that she was in control, and she used it, because in today's world, relationships are no longer rooted in mutual effort. They're rooted in entitlement. She believed that simply being a woman meant your time, your attention, your commitment were hers by default, not something she needed to earn, not something she needed to reflect back. And the harsh truth is, you allowed it. You acted like a gentleman in a culture that profits off men who bleed silently. You gave her exclusivity while she handed out her attention like confetti. You planned for tomorrow. She lived for dopamine. You built a future. She chased moments. She flirted with her exes, posted thirst traps. And you convinced yourself that maybe she was just insecure. But deep down, you knew that wasn't insecurity. That was disrespect. Still, you ignored your instincts. Because your love was real. And real love, it can blind a man in a world full of illusions. You supported her dreams. While she mocked yours, you gave her stability. While she entertained chaos, you stayed. Not because you were weak, but because you believed. One day, she'd wake up and finally see your worth. She did see it. She just didn't care, because this modern myth tells women they deserve better, even when they bring nothing of substance. She thought she was owed a man who'd die for her, but never once thought about what it meant to truly live for him. So she tested you with silence, with distance, with emotional games. She wanted to see if you'd break. You didn't, but you did bend. You twisted. You compromised. You snapped quietly inside. And still, you stayed. You watered down your masculinity to fit her mood swings. You slowly killed off parts of your identity just to keep her attention. But attention isn't love. And love without respect, that's slow abuse wearing a romantic mask. You gave her a consistency that few men today are capable of. She misread it. She thought it was desperation. Every time you overlooked her disrespect, she respected you less. Every time you made her happiness more important than your peace, she grew resentful. Because here's the bitter paradox. Women don't fall for the man they can walk over. They fall for the one who has the power to walk away. But she knew you wouldn't, so she pushed further, until you weren't even yourself anymore. Until you looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the man. staring back. That's when it changed. That's when you woke up, when you realized that no love is worth your dignity, that peace is more attractive than begging to be noticed. You didn't slam the door. You didn't explode. You didn't fight. You simply stopped showing up. You stopped explaining. You stopped initiating. You stopped seeking validation from someone who couldn't see your worth. When it was right in front of her, that silence, it hit her like a storm, because for the first time, she felt the absence of the man she thought would never leave. Now she scrolls through the old texts, reading love she'll never feel again. Now she replays the moments she once dismissed. She cries not because you're gone, but because she never thought you would be. But you didn't just leave physically. You disconnected emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You ascended. You took back your time, your energy, your identity as a man. And with that, you realized a woman who doesn't match your loyalty with effort isn't a prize. She's a distraction. Now it's her turn to sit in the uncertainty she once forced you to feel. Her turn to wonder if she was ever enough. Let her. Don't check on her. Don't chase closure. Don't confuse healing with rescuing. She had you. She gambled. She lost. Now it's your time to rise, to rebuild, to protect your peace. Like it's your birthright. You no longer beg for love. You attract it with presence, purpose, and standards. You've chosen yourself. You've chosen clarity over confusion, legacy over lust. You're not her safety net anymore. You're your own foundation. And if she ever circles back, looking for the man she once took for granted, remember this: you weren't the problem. She simply couldn't see your value until it no longer served her. And once value walks, it doesn't return. Not for apologies, not for nostalgia, not for promises of change, because now you're the storm, the one she never saw coming. And now she feels every second of it. Number 2, you tried everything. You did everything you could. While you were pouring in your loyalty, your time, and your soul to build something lasting, she was testing the limits of how far she could go before you'd finally push back. But you didn't. You didn't push back. You bent. You adjusted. You gave up parts of yourself. Parts she never earned the right to influence. You told yourself, if I love harder, stay softer, become more understanding, maybe she'll stop. Maybe she'll stop looking for attention online. Maybe she'll see the man in front of her instead of chasing validation from strangers. But the more you gave, the less she did. Your effort met apathy. Your consistency was returned with emotional distance. You showed up for her, but she never truly showed up for you. Her love came with fine print, and you signed every line, hoping it would lead to a future she never intended to build. You planned dates. You stayed up late for heart-to-hearts. You forgave emotional immaturity, expecting time would bring wisdom. You made excuses to your friends. You lied to your family. You protected a relationship she was never fully in. And worst of all, you thought it was your fault. You asked yourself, am I not attractive enough? Is it my income? Am I not masculine enough? But the truth was simple. She was never ready for real love. Because real love demands maturity. It requires effort. It means choosing one person in a world full of distractions. And she wasn't willing to do that. So she treated your devotion like an emotional insurance policy, You were her therapist, her safety net, her fallback, until the day you finally asked for something back. Respect, effort, mutual accountability. That's when she flipped the script. Now, you were the problem. You were controlling, too intense, emotionally needy. She spun your honesty into insecurity. She weaponized your empathy. She made you question your sanity, even when your instincts were screaming the truth. And you stayed. You gave her another chance. And another, until your consistency became her excuse to keep taking you for granted. She mistook peace for boredom. She mistook forgiveness for weakness. She didn't realize she was slowly breaking the spirit of a man most women pray for. You stopped laughing. You watched your tone. You measured every word. You became a version of yourself that felt like a stranger just to keep her comfortable. That's when you truly lost. Not her, yourself. Because the moment a man edits who he is, just to be tolerated by a woman, he's already given up his power. She didn't leave you. You left yourself, but not anymore. You've tried everything. Now, it's her turn to wonder what she lost. Your mission now isn't to fix what's broken. It's to rebuild who you were before she bent you out of shape. Cut the emotional wires. No more explaining. No more defending your worth. No more reaching for someone who never reached back. Rebuild your life, one decision at a time. Fill your schedule with purpose. Channel every ounce of energy into your strength, your focus, your evolution. Get in the gym, not to impress her, but to reclaim the body that carries your resolve. Write, not for poetry, but for clarity. Don't answer the late-night messages. Don't scroll through her feed. Treat her digital presence like a virus you need to extract. Stop searching for closure. You don't need it. Her actions were your answer. You don't need to understand why she didn't choose you. You need to understand why you thought someone who gave so little was worthy of everything you had to offer. Because here's what no one tells you. When a woman knows you'll stay no matter what, she stops trying. But when she realizes you're really gone, she panics. Still, that's not your problem anymore. Because if she ever returns after your growth, it's not a blessing, it's a test. And most likely, she won't even qualify. For the man you've become, the man who tried everything is gone. The man who chooses himself, he's here now. You want action. Block her. Not out of hate, out of healing. Write down the moments she made you feel invisible. Read it. Burn it. Let it go. Replace every thought of her with a rep at the gym, a page in a book, a new skill acquired. Fix your posture. Upgrade your wardrobe. Stop saying yes to what drains you. Speak less. Do more. Date yourself until your solitude becomes self-respect. And when pain visits, welcome it, but don't worship it. Let it fuel you. She didn't walk away because you weren't enough. She walked because she couldn't rise to meet you. And now you've become someone she'll never have access to again. That's the power of a man who gave everything and finally chose himself. Number 3, she thought you'd never walk. She played her games with confidence, believing she had time, leverage, and your loyalty wrapped around her finger. She calculated every move, how far she could pull back, how cold she could be, because deep down, she didn't believe you'd ever walk away. She knew your rhythm. She memorized your kindness. She counted on your loyalty. and she mistook all of it for weakness. Each time she went silent, you responded with softness. Every cold shoulder, every emotional withdrawal, you answered with more love, more patience, more hope. She believed you were trapped, emotionally locked in a cycle you couldn't escape. And maybe you were, because the version of her you fell for in the beginning, she was everything you wanted, mirroring your dreams, your values, saying all the right words, showing all the right signs. But that version, it wasn't real. It was a crafted illusion, a bait to secure your heart, your commitment, your devotion. Once she had that, the mask slipped slowly, strategically. The warmth faded, the appreciation died, and suddenly, she began comparing you to others, to her ex, to that friend who just gets it, to anyone but you. These weren't accidents. They were weapons. She wanted you to feel inadequate, not to push you away, but to tighten her grip. The more you felt uncertain, the harder you tried, and she fed off that, not because she loved you, but because she loved the control. Control over your confidence, control over your masculinity, control over your time, your energy, your identity. So what did you do? You adjusted. Again, you made yourself more agreeable, more patient, more forgiving. You hoped that maybe if you softened enough, you could bring the spark back, but you missed the truth. There was no spark left. There was only power, and she held it. Modern relationships aren't about love anymore. They're about leverage, and the one who cares less holds the throne. She knew this. She exploited it. She began posting seductive pictures, not for you, but for attention. She delayed replies to your messages, returning hours later with a dismissive lol. You became a stranger in a relationship you helped build, and when you questioned it, she flipped it on you. "Why are you so insecure?" she asked. But it wasn't insecurity. It was clarity. It was your intuition waving a red flag in your face. But you ignored it because you were taught that love endures, that good men fight for connection, so you stayed. You forgave, you tolerated, and every time you did, she lost more respect for you. She believed you'd never leave. She believed you'd always come back, until you didn't. It wasn't an explosion. It wasn't a dramatic goodbye. It was silence, stillness, disconnection. And that's what shook her, because the man who always explained suddenly stopped explaining. The man who always chased walked quietly. Finally, and without warning, you didn't leave out of anger. You left because you had nothing left to give. Not your heart, not your peace, not your soul. She's watching now, scrolling through your old messages, replaying your voice in her mind, seeing the man she never thought would change, become someone unrecognizable, stronger, sharper, unavailable. She lost what she thought she could always reclaim, and now that regret is hers, not yours. Don't answer the breadcrumb texts. Don't fall, for I miss you. Don't seek closure, because you've already found it in your peace. True closure isn't a conversation. It's a commitment. It's you choosing your sanity over her chaos, your future over your fantasy, your dignity over her confusion. You want power. Build your days around purpose. You want strength. Walk away when it's not mutual. You want peace. Block her. Unfollow her. Release her, not from hatred, but from honor. Honor for the man you were and the one you're becoming. Take back your mornings. Fill them with discipline. Take back your nights. Fill them with silence, learning, rebuilding. Rewire your heart to associate love with calm, not conflict, with reciprocity, not exhaustion. And when that urge creeps in, to check her profile, to reread her messages, to wonder what could have been, remind yourself of one thing: she thought you'd never walk. And now that you have, you owe it to yourself to never return. You were the blessing, she was the lesson, and your only job now is to never forget either. Number 4, you chose silence over chaos. She was ready for drama. She expected an outburst, maybe a desperate message, a breakdown, a final plea for love. But what she never anticipated was silence. Not a silence born of pettiness, not one used to manipulate, but a silence born from clarity, the kind of clarity that only comes when a man finally sees the truth, that his words have lost all value in a place where they are no longer heard. See, you didn't stop talking because you didn't know what to say. You stopped because you realized no explanation could fix what had already been dismissed. No more debating, no more defending, no more emotional labor just to be misunderstood. And in that silence, something profound happened. You didn't vanish to get a reaction. You walked away because you understood this fundamental truth: chaos only exists when it has a willing host. You stopped being the host. You stopped being the man who held the emotional line for both of you. While she waited for noise, you gave her stillness. While she expected a storm, you gave her peace. A peace that burned colder than fire. She had no idea how loud silence could be, until it was the only thing she heard. No more morning messages, no more comfort in your consistency, just emptiness where your love used to be. That silence became a mirror. Now, she's alone with her own behavior. The dismissiveness, the emotional manipulation, the cold sarcasm, all the moments you used to absorb and rationalize, now echoing back at her with no one there to dilute their sting. Modern dating has trained too many to believe that men are disposable, that loyalty from a man is a given, that emotional support is owed. She believed you'd always stay, because you always did. She leaned on your empathy, your kindness, your shared memories. She thought the bond you built could withstand her carelessness. But then, you didn't raise your voice. You didn't send closure texts. You didn't play the let's talk about it game. You just vanished. And in that vanishing, you reclaimed something she never expected you to. Your power. See, silence is not the absence of love. It's the presence of self-respect. It's the unspoken declaration that you no longer move to her rhythm. You've started walking to your own. And now, she scrolls through her feed, looking for signs that you still care. She posts selfies, quotes, vague captions designed to bait you in, but there's nothing, no likes, no comments, no views from you. That void stings, because for the first time, you're not playing her game. You didn't just delete her contact, you deleted the version of yourself that needed her. You replaced late-night anxiety with early morning discipline. You traded scrolling for strategy, tears for training, doubt for development. Because this wasn't a breakup, it was a breakthrough. Most men leave physically, but stay emotionally. Not you. You cut the emotional cord. You accepted your part. Your enabling. Your over-giving. Your silence in the face of disrespect. And you grew, because real men take accountability but they don't stay in places that crush their spirit. You finally saw the pattern, the intermittent affection, followed by distance. That wasn't love. That was control. A game of reinforcement meant to keep you chasing, but you've stopped chasing because now you're hungry for something real, and silence is how you starve the illusion. In that quiet, you've been healing, you've been reading, training, building, reconnecting with your core. And when that message comes, hey, thinking of you, just checking in, you won't answer. Not out of bitterness, but because you've built boundaries. You've learned that access is earned, not owed. You were her comfort, her emotional anchor, but she confused consistency with desperation. Now, every second, you stay silent. She reflects, and in that reflection, regret begins to bloom. But that's not your responsibility. You're not here to be her second chance. You're here to be your own first priority. Move with that mindset. Build a life so full of mission that even her memory feels like a distraction. You want actionable steps. Block her fully. No half measures. No, maybe later. Delete the history. Delete the hope. Wake up earlier. Read. Work out. Eat cleaner. Journal your patterns. Learn from them. Track your progress. Keep your promises to yourself. And every time that temptation whispers, just check her profile. Redirect. Lift. Create. Serve. Because every time you choose silence over relapse, you win. You reclaim a piece of yourself. And over time, you won't just become stronger. You'll become unrecognizable to the man who once begged for love that hurt him. She thought you'd yell. She thought you'd cry. She thought you'd crawl back. But you didn't. You chose silence. And that silence, it's now the loudest reminder that you finally chose you. Number 5. Now she remembers everything. While you're rebuilding, while you're rising quietly in the shadows of your evolution, she begins to remember. And this time, it's not vague. It's not a passing thought. It's a vivid ache that presses on her heart. When she's alone, the mornings are the worst. When she wakes up without that good morning text that used to make her smile. The silence that follows is louder than anything you ever said. She remembers the voice notes. The ones where you reminded her of her worth when she questioned it. The way your eyes lit up just at the sight of her, as if she was the only woman who existed. Back then, she thought your love was guaranteed. But now, all she has is a ghost. Not the kind that haunts her with fear, but the kind that haunts her with memory. When you chose peace over proving yourself, her world turned into noise. The things she once dismissed now scream in her mind. She remembers how you smiled through disappointment, how you said "I got you" when she had nothing to give in return. And now she replays it all. Every time she mocked your emotions, rolled her eyes at your vulnerability, shrugged off your future plans like they were burdens instead of dreams. You were stability in a world of distractions. A man of presence in a sea of temporary attention. But she didn't notice, not until she lost you. Now she scrolls through your social media, not because she wants to reconnect, but because she's looking for signs you still care. She sees the gym sessions, the quiet wins, the subtle glow up, and realizes you're not broadcasting heartbreak. You're cultivating peace, and it hits her harder than anything. You didn't walk away in anger. You left in clarity. Even her friends ask about you now. They saw what she ignored. Her mother asks, "Why would you let him go?" But she can't answer, because deep down, she knows You weren't the problem. You weren't lacking. You were offering everything she wasn't ready to receive. You were building something real. She was chasing stimulation. You were offering devotion. She was scrolling for validation. And now she remembers how safe she felt around you. How she could cry in your arms without judgment. How you forgave her even when she didn't say sorry. But the safety is gone. The warmth is gone. And you're not posting for revenge. You're not flexing pain. You're moving in silence. You're guarding your energy like it's sacred, because it is. And while she reposts quotes about healing and growth, she's still trying to replace what can't be replaced. You, the man who gave her love without conditions, the man who was there when no one else was, the man she kept questioning, even though he never gave her a reason to doubt. And every time she tries to distract herself with compliments from strangers, with new followers and fake smiles, none of them know her soul the way you did. None of them make her feel safe the way you did. None of them stay. And in the quiet moments before sleep, it rushes back. Your presence, your patience, your love. Gone, but not forgotten. Because now she remembers, and what she remembers hurts her more than what she's lost. It's knowing she'll never have access to you again. Because you didn't just leave, you evolved. You didn't yell, you didn't beg, you didn't chase. You raised your standard, and that silence, that sacred, focused, healing silence. It's the loudest thing she hears now. She remembers everything, but you're too far gone to return. Number 6, let her sit in the loss, while you rise, evolve, and rebuild a life anchored in purpose, discipline, and truth. She sits with the weight of everything she once had, but never appreciated. And now, the silence you left behind isn't peace for her. It's a sentence, not one you gave out of cruelty, but one written by the consequences of her own behavior. You didn't wish her pain, but you stopped shielding her from it. You stopped stepping in every time her chaos erupted. You stopped explaining your worth to someone who never listened. Now she has to sit in that absence, not just physically, but spiritually. The warmth, the protection, the emotional sanctuary you offered, it's gone. And what replaced it is the cold clarity of a man who finally chose himself. Now she stares at her phone longer than she ever did when you were around. But none of the names in her inbox spark what your name used to ignite. The attention she once chased so freely now feels hollow. The men she tried to use as a distraction now feel weightless. She thought options would make her forget you. Instead, they remind her of what she lost. You were the man who stayed calm when she lashed out. You stayed patient when she was reckless. You stood firm when others would have walked. You forgave what many would have condemned. You were her certainty in a world full of masks, and she threw that away thinking you'd always be there. But now, she's learning a hard truth. Men like you don't wait forever. Men like you don't beg. They build. Her ego won't allow her to say it, but her silence is filled with regret. She posts not for joy but for attention. Not for the world, but hoping you'll see. But you don't, because you're no longer in her world. You've transcended it, not by distance, but by depth. She thought you'd crawl back when the spotlight dimmed, when her roster of men lost their shine, when her games no longer worked, but instead of returning, you rose. You didn't post pain. You posted progress. You didn't seek revenge. You embraced rebirth. And now, nothing she does works. No smile, no message, no post, can recreate the feeling of being seen, truly seen by the man who used to look at her like she mattered. She confused your loyalty for desperation. She called your consistency boring. Now she craves the same boredom that once annoyed her, because it was never boring, it was rare. The man who once poured every ounce of effort into keeping her close is now pouring that same energy into becoming untouchable. And that she never expected. She thought your emotions would keep you tethered, but those emotions, they've been reforged into power. And the next time she sees you, if she ever does, she'll know instantly you're not the same man. You're sharper, quieter, more focused, more disciplined. You move like someone who learned that peace is more valuable than passion. And your silence, it says everything she never took the time to understand. Let her sit in that. Let her sit in the realization that she had your kindness, your loyalty, your forgiveness when they were at full strength, and she wasted it. Let her sit with the truth that she trained you to stop caring, that her inconsistency made you question everything about yourself. Let her remember how she made you feel like a burden for simply needing love. Let her relive the way she ignored your pain, mocked your vulnerability, dismissed your value. You don't need revenge. The mirror does the work now. You're not stalking her pages. You're building your empire. You're not wondering what she's doing. You're wondering how far you can go without anything holding you back. Because from now on, you don't chase. You attract. You don't argue. You enforce. You don't wait to be chosen. You choose. And the kind of woman you allow into your life from this point forward, she'll know your worth before she ever gets close. She won't need to be reminded to respect your time. She'll come correct or not at all. The old you, he died in silence. The new you was born in clarity. And now that she's watching from a distance, don't close the gap. Don't throw her a rope. Let her learn how to swim in the consequences of her own waves. Let her figure out what it means to lose a man who was all in and meant it. Let her stay there. And if the temptation ever creeps in, to check her profile, to respond to her texts, to wonder if she's changed. Remember the nights you cried yourself to sleep while she laughed in someone else's DMs. Remember the way she gaslit your instincts, made you feel crazy for feeling neglected. Let that memory anchor your discipline. Let it remind you, this silence was earned. You're no longer available for chaos. You don't negotiate with confusion. You live in purpose. You walk in strength. You speak with action, not desperation. So let her miss you. Let her journal about you. Let her try to replace what she didn't respect. Let her sit in the loss, because that loss, that silence, that void, it's the loudest message she'll ever receive. And it's the one thing she can never undo. You didn't lose her. She lost you. And the man you're becoming, he's not just moving on, he's moving beyond. If this message hits something deep inside you, don't ignore it. This isn't just a story, it's a mirror. Sometimes, the greatest act of strength is walking away without anger and rebuilding in silence. So if you're healing, keep going. If you're rising, don't look back. Drop a comment. What lesson hit you hardest? Like this video if it spoke truth. Share it with a brother who needs to hear this. And subscribe, because this journey isn't over. You're not here to beg for love. You're here to build a life where peace is non-negotiable. Choose yourself every time.